So today I am really pleased to be joined by Sana Syed. Sana is an experienced early years educator and team leader with a real passion for building strong cultures and supporting teacher growth. Welcome, Sana, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Stewart, and it is always lovely collaborating with you. And that was a very generous introduction. Thank you so much.
Sana makes an enormous contribution to the mathematics community, and it's a delight to have her on with us today. So just to start us off, Sana, could you tell us a little bit about your journey in education so far and what you're currently working on?
So I've been in education for about 15 to 16 years so far. I started off as an assistant in a preschool setting, and over the course of the last decade, I've moved up from assistant teacher to co-teacher, teacher, team lead, and finally, I'm the HOD of math for early years at the Next Generation School, Dubai. I have basically been teaching all the way from 18-month-olds to 7-year-olds, so that's been a big teaching field for me. So at Next Generation School, I've been for the last, I think next year will be my 10th year with the Next Generation School. I was a founding member here. So it's been a fun ride watching our school grow, and just being on this ride with them.
It's fantastic just to get that little bit of background and to hear you say there, Sana, teaching students from 18 months old to 7 years old, which sounds like an incredible task. I was just wondering, in that age bracket, do you see that there's a point or an age where students start to make sense of mathematics? Is there a really critical spell in there, or is that just across the board? It's important across the board.
So what I have noticed is, yes, because my expertise has been in the early years for the last decade, what I have noticed is that math basically builds up everything that makes sense for them. Their entire world and how they make sense of what is around them starts with math. Language is what helps them, it anchors them, but it is math that helps them move forward and make an understanding of the world, make those connections with the world. So yes, there is that sweet spot between, I'd say, about 4 to 5 year olds when they're actually getting into it. They're understanding the math skills as we are sharing it with them. But apart from that, I think even from the youngest age where they're actually learning how to understand patterns. I cry, my mom's going to pick it up. That's a pattern. They've understood that. So I think math is all around, irrespective of how old they are. So I think that is your biggest neuron pathway, right? You're building those math skills from the time you're born. So although there's a sweet spot, I think all throughout early years, you're definitely building math skills.
Very, very, very good answer there, I think. And just put you right on the spot. Do you have a favorite year or age group to teach?
It seems as I've gotten older, my bias towards the age group seems to be getting older with me. I feel like I'm at the right spot at the moment. I teach grade 1, and I really do enjoy it with them at the moment. They are somewhere in the middle, right? They're just out of kindergarten. They still have the curiosity, they still have the inquiry, but at the same time, they have the independence of being able to go through their own learning processes themselves. So I'm in the sweet spot. I think grade 1 is the place to be.
Fantastic, and I'm sure countless grade 1 teachers agree with you. So you told us there that you're a founding member at Next Generation School. You've certainly got a good level of experience in early years education, and as you said, you're now leading the team. But I wanted to know what first motivated you to sort of step into a leadership role, and what principles have guided you in terms of how to lead other people.
So, like I said, my growth has been organic in the sense that it has been a build-up of skills as I've moved forward. And at Next Generation School, alhamdulillah, I found myself in a lucky enough position where my leaders saw potential in me, and they were able to offer me positions where, okay, do you want to take on the team lead? Do you want to move forward? So it was about, personally, I think it was about displaying those leadership skills where I could say yes, that I would like to try something new, and I want to keep yourself open to trying. It's about being vulnerable at that point. Yes, that I want to try. I know I might make a mistake, that I do want to try, and I do want to make a difference. So I was lucky enough to find that at Next Generation School, where my leaders were able to see that potential in me. But I think that is something that I also learned personally, is that when it comes to work, you must not take it personally. You have to be reflective. And in all points of life, you have to be reflective. Whether as a teacher or as a leader, you need to be reflective, and you need to understand that there's always going to be room for improvement. So if you have that growth mindset that I can improve, I can get better, I think that always works in pushing you further up the ladder as you go. So that just not closing down your mind, okay, where I am happy where I am, and this is where I want to be, or being in that comfort zone. You need to push yourself to try something new and to be able to make those mistakes. Now, I think that plays a very important part, that you need to not be scared of making mistakes, because that is probably what I also have as a mind frame as a leader. Because in my mind, if I am going to be making mistakes, I need to be okay with the people I am leading making mistakes as well, for them to not be scared to make mistakes, to not be scared to improve. So the same principles that I put on myself is what I put on my team as well, that if I want leeway from my management to let me make mistakes, learn from them and improve, the same way I need to be able to give the same kind of sense of security to my team, that it's okay, we're just learning and we're in this together. So these kind of bits and pieces have really helped me connect with my team, and I feel like I'm a better leader for it. The same way, some of the other bits is that you need to know where you are going. The where of your vision and your mission does really play a very big role. So as a team, as a leader, I think it is very important to know where you want to lead your team. And when you have that well planned out, like how Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. So when you have that end in mind, you are able to guide the people on the right track. You're able to tell them, okay, this is what we're looking for. By the end of KG2, this is what we're looking for. By grade 1, this is what we're looking for. Having those very structured ideas in place really do help any kind of team to feel like what they're working with is transparent. Their leader is transparent with them. They are telling them exactly where they're going. They're telling them exactly what these intentions are. So these little bits and pieces really do help you in leadership as well. And I think apart from just knowing where you're going, I think to connect with your team, you need to know the why of it. Why are you doing it? So many times, when it comes top down, when you have the top down approach where, okay, this is what we are doing, it takes away the feel of teaching, that we know, like every teacher who has had time to teach feels about teaching a certain way. They have their own ideologies, they have their own principles, they have a way in which they look at how teaching should look in their classroom. So when we are coming to them from a top-down approach, we take that away to a certain extent. But rather, I think giving them the why are we doing this, being transparent in that form, will give them the opportunity to see the entire structure the same way that you see it. So these kind of transparent structures will help you actually connect with your team, make sure that they're moving progressively with you, because they know exactly where you're going, they know why you're doing it, so they will follow you through it. And one of the biggest things that made an impact on me when I was a teacher and a leader that I had above me that really did make an impact on me, and practices that I tried to put into position was that you need to always try to slip back into your team members' shoes. So a few years ago, we had this lovely ELA head. I'm a homeroom teacher, so we had an English language head, and she would come in and she would do these amazing demo classes with you. She would do these co-teaching classes with you. And I found these very impactful, because now this wasn't somebody telling me, okay, this is what you need to do. They were coming and they were doing it with me. They were showing me how to do it. And that made such an impact, and she used to tell us that. She's like, I hated when people tell me what to do. So she would say, I'm going to come to you with a bag of tricks. I'm going to tell you how I do it. And this is how we're going to move forward. This made a really big impact on me. So if it had an impact on me, I want to make sure that I'm taking the same kind of impact to my team members. So I think that kind of structure where you are able to have that transparent nature with your team members, show them, teach them, step into their shoes and help them across, really does make a difference in developing your own leadership skills, while also making sure that you're able to lead your team in a meaningful manner.
It's clear that you are very passionate about bringing your teams with you, and starting with the why, as you said, there is so important. But you talked about almost going hand in hand with people and going through this process together, and this sort of sense of a shared journey. And I think that's huge, because it gives people the comfort to feel that they can take a risk, because if you want to improve, you have to change, and change is risky, but to feel supported in there. And I think one word that I was expecting to hear, but perhaps didn't, was trust. And I think what you've said in all those different instances there almost boils down to trust as such a powerful thing to try and generate. And I suppose that leads us on to my next question, which was generally about school culture in in the wider sense, how important do you think school culture is when it comes to helping teams thrive? And more specifically, what are some practical things that you've seen or that you've tried to do to help create the right conditions?
I must say, I think the school culture probably plays the biggest role in the success of any team. Like you said, it comes back down to trust. It comes back down to working with them. So there, your school culture does play a very important role. Now, like you said, they need to be able to take risks. A team that is scared to make mistakes will never move forward because they are going to be too scared about the repercussions. They're going to be scared about accountability. So I think that kind of school culture where, like I said, we need to go back to making sure that they know that they can take that risk. We will find a solution. We will move forward. So like you said, that trust and building that relationship really does play a very important part in making sure that your systems and your teams run smoothly. Sometimes what we want to do, okay, we can always say that, okay, we can go back to the drawing board, we can fix it, we can make things work according to how the team wants it. But we know realistically that is not always possible. There are obviously some non-negotiables. There are some systems that are placed by your senior leadership team that as middle leaders, we need to follow. So in those kind of situations, I feel like our preparedness as a leader and our problem-solving skills does play a very important part. So like I said, when we are setting up the systems, we need to first start off with the expectations. What are we focusing on? Just breaking it down into smaller pieces, making it easier for your team to follow, making it easier for them to achieve, makes it easier for them to feel like they are in a good place. They are in a good place to learn, to grow, and to make improvements. So you would start with your expectations. You would say, okay, this is the focus area, guys. This is what we are working on. We are all working on changing our planning system. Like this year for KG2, we moved on to the 5E planning to bring it closer to our primary section. So this is what we're focusing on. This is where we're going to spend time. I know the other things are going to be a bit floppy at the moment. We're going to make mistakes on the other parts, but it's fine. This is what we're focusing on at the moment. So you give them that focus, you keep them on it, and you say, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm going into classes, I'm co-teaching with you. We're fixing this. Okay, I'm going to come back and we're going to work on this again. So just saying that, okay, it's never like, oh, you did all of this wrong. It's like, okay, you did this right. Now let's fix this. So there has to be a point of celebration. You have to celebrate something that the person is doing. Because obviously, if they're a teacher, they're in a classroom, they're here for a reason. So you have to first acknowledge that, and then you give them something to move forward with. Okay, now this is where we're going. We are going to train. I'm going to train you more into it. I'm going to look more into how I can co-teach with you, giving them those strategies so that they know exactly what they can put into place. Again, it is don't tell me, show me, give them those strategies so that they are able to apply it. See, even when you're going into co-teaching and you're teaching with them, what happens is that you see every class is different. The demography of every class is going to be different. So you might go in and you might see, oh, KG2A cannot handle 5 minutes on the mat. So I need to come up with a different solution. I cannot penalize the teacher for the students she has inherited. So we have to make sure that we change our systems to meet the classroom. So that is why it becomes very important for you as a team, as a lead, to be inside the classrooms, to know exactly what is happening in there, to be able to support your teachers the best that you can. Then as you go forward with your training, then you would obviously build on it. Okay, my first 15 minutes of my class are down pat. All my teachers know how to do it. All right, now we're going to be working on our journal expectations. So again, there's a certain build-up that you have to work with so that it's, again, achievable for your team. There is this continuous sense of gratification where they feel, okay, something has been achieved. So just creating that culture does make it easier for them. You don't want to pressure them to the point that, okay, all of these things need to be finished now. One of the things that I found in my years as a teacher as well is that the number of changes that come, and you're like, okay, all of these changes need to be made this year. It is not achievable. And two, the amount of pressure that it puts on a teacher makes it quite a useless interaction, because no one part is being done well. So you might see that, okay, you might have a whole year's plan, but you might go through it and you might like, maybe we need to leave this for next year. You need to make those decisions as a leader and make sure that you know what your plan is going forward. That what happens is that at least if your initial few bits and pieces are very well thought out, are very well in place, the teachers that are carried forward to the following year can then become mentors to the new people who are coming in, or any changes that might be happening. Then you have a whole set of teachers who are then able to mentor, who are then confident, and are then able to provide extra support to you as a leader. So it obviously starts off with having that small group, building your trust, building that foundation so that there's somebody to speak your piece. No, this system works. Give it time. It works. So it's just about making sure that you break it down into those bits and pieces and you keep it focused. I think that is one of the most important aspects. Keeping it focused, making that culture of a focus, growth, improvement cycle with your team so that you know you're able to move forward.
What I'm getting a sense of here is that your philosophy always brings it back to the person and remembering that members of our team are individual people who will obviously have feelings, maybe have doubts, and the sort of level of support and the kind of almost care that I can hear coming through in your answers is really it's really, I think, important to put the people back at the centre of the process and not the system itself. But I feel that some teachers may think that they're part of a process or part of a machine, whereas what you're describing is a sort of culture of real togetherness and supportiveness. What about colleagues who are less enthusiastic about change? We know that a lot of teachers are doing as much as they can to keep developing, but some are maybe just for whatever reason would rather stick to what they're used to. How do you help coax them forward?
Change, I think, is difficult no matter what. I mean, it could be something good, but at any point, any kind of change would be difficult. And as teachers, I think the more years you spend in education, the more ingrained are your principles and the more ingrained are how you feel teaching should be. So breaking that, I think one of the things for us as leaders is to make sure that our systems at least have a certain kind of turnover. Like they need to have either provable results, or they must have some sort of end output or an end goal that we can actually show. Okay, you might not necessarily agree with the way we're doing things, but let's push through this and we will see the results at the end. So again, this also brings you back to trust, that they might not trust you completely, they might not be there yet, but the idea being that, okay, we're going to go through this process together, we can then judge it at the end. So at times that is what you need to say, that is where the whole strategy aspect comes in. You give them the strategy, okay, why don't you try it out? And then we will come back to it and tell me what. There might be instances where no matter how many strategies you give or whatever it is not working out. But then it just comes down to, okay, let's go through this process together. We will come back and we will reflect on it at the end of the year, see how much progress has been made. That is where I think our systems then become important, that you are actually able to monitor the growth and the progress of the students to make sure that you're able to tell your teacher, or you're able to show the results to your teacher, that, okay, you might not have agreed with it, but look, there is a result that comes out of it. Give it time. So there will be those teachers, there will be those circumstances, but I guess it's just about pushing them through the process and then showing them the results at the end.
In your answers here, I can't help thinking about students that I've worked with and taught, and quite often that's a similar sort of approach for students who maybe say, I can't do maths, I'm not a math person, but then to have some success and that right amount of encouragement and support, but with a little bit of challenge, just finding that, as you said earlier, that sweet spot that starts to get the growth that we're looking for. And talking about growth, I mean, clearly you've developed a deep expertise in the early years, but I know that you're always looking to push yourself on, to grow and take on challenges. But how do you make sure you keep learning and keep pushing yourself forward?
Like you said, where I stand now obviously is a big leap from where I started off in preschool all those years ago. But I think my motto over here is quite simple. If anybody were to ask or challenge me with something, it would literally be me asking myself, what is the worst that could happen? That's literally all I would say to myself, quite simply. What is the worst that could happen? You've been given a challenge, you're not sure about it. What's the worst that could happen? Just take it on, say sure, and then tell yourself, okay, I can figure it out. I will just go home. I will do my research. I will figure it out. But on face value, I think that is what a challenge is, right? That is what bravery is. You take on the challenge, you're scared, but you do it anyway. So you would just get your foot in through the door, and then just one foot in front of the other until you figure out and how you can get there and what you can do to make yourself as informed or as good as you can at the task. So I think that is where it is. You have to keep breaking that status quo. You have to keep pushing yourself, because I think where I am personally, where I find myself in a comfort zone, where I find that runt taking over, there is a sense of dissatisfaction that will start creeping in. As any professional or anybody who is in any professional sense, there will be a sense of dissatisfaction that starts seeping in because you're not sure where you're going. You've done this quite a few times over. Now what? It starts getting boring. You start losing joy. I think that is the most important part. No matter what you do, you need to find that joy in doing it. So if you're fortunate enough to find yourself in a good space, you have the systems, there's an environment, you have to give it respect. You have to respect it. You have to give it dignity, because there will be times in your life where you have to make that decision. Do I want my peace of mind or do I want finance? Finances play part in everything. So you do end up making that decision. But if you find yourself in a place where you are happy, okay, let's be very frankly, teachers are never going to have a peace of mind. We're going to be in the circle of burnout over and over again. So rather do it in a place where you're happy, where you are able to grow, where you're able to find something that pushes you, that inspires you. So those kind of bits, so finding yourself in that proper, environment that helps you, that sparks that joy is very important. So find that support system for yourself, have that workplace bestie, somebody you can rely on, somebody who is able to see the world through your own eyes. All of those bits and pieces, finding yourself in through it all really does help in inspiring that growth mindset for yourself as well. Now, we are kind of fortunate enough to live in a world which is, our job itself is, I think, very creative. I don't think a teacher does anything I don't think there's anything a teacher does not do. We are engineers, we are artists, we are builders, we are dress designers, we are anything and everything, right? We are in a creative field. As teachers, you will try everything. So use that. If there is something that you enjoy, find something. We are in a creative field. We are in a world where we have a lot going on for us. If you see something online, bring it back to your team, bring it back to your leaders and say, hey, I saw this, I want to try this. See how they take to it. If you're in a good place where people do support you, you might find that your leaders are like, okay, give it a try. Even if we have a teacher in our school, she loves to crochet. She sits in the garden with a whole bunch of children around her and she crochets with them. That is what gives her joy. So just finding those bits and pieces that really do give you joy, that bring you to want to grow. She brought the club back into school and she's able to do it as a club. So that has been a point of development for her. So bringing those things back, bringing it back to your school, telling, even proposing it to your management and saying, this is something I want to try. This is something I want to do. It might be something that is outside of school, something that you haven't been able to do before. Many times this actually comes without a price tag. You might not have any monetary value attached to it. But when you do apply these, when you are able to do these things, what happens is that you still walk away with having learned new skills. You can see how your management reacts to your growth. Like, how are they looking at your growth? Are they looking to grow you? Are they looking to improve you? Do they actually see you moving up within their ladder? So just taking these first steps on your own will help you understand where you can go later in your career as well.
Finding the joy is maybe going to be one of my takeaway phrases from this conversation, particularly because the rewards that we gain from teaching is manifests in lots of different ways, and as you say, it's maybe not necessarily always financial, but the rewards that we get from having such a varied job and being able to do things a little bit differently every day, and to be able to improve our own sort of skill set. You talked about sort of, you might not get a financial return for learning something new, but you have learned something new, and that is a reward in itself. And it makes me think about a project that I know that you've put a lot of energy and time into, because you're obviously very keen on supporting others. That's coming through very clearly. That is the Next Generation School professional learning communities. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How long's that been going, and what's the sort of structure there?
So I remember I first approached you a year ago with an idea that even I wasn't so confident with. But the NGS PLC is basically, we are a small community school. So we're not attached to any of the bigger community, bigger teaching education groups. We do not have the exposure to professional learning as much as other schools do. So what we wanted to do is that we wanted to bring teachers together to collaborate, to learn from each other, to share experiences, for us to be able to invite experts who are passionate about giving back to the teaching community, being able to see that growth. So we were able to bring all of this together. And for the last year, mashallah, we've had a very successful run. We have had webinars almost every month. We are now counting down to our second on-site event. And Mr. Stuart, you've been a very big part of that as well. Your expertise in helping us guide us through the PLC has also been a very big part of it. So yes, alhamdulillah, this professional learning community is something that has helped me grow as an educator. It has been something that has, and slowly but surely, we've seen our community grow, which means that there are lots of teachers like us who want to learn, who want to be a part of a community, who want to collaborate. And it has been really rewarding to see that, to bring all of these people under one roof, to be able to share ideas.
I know how positive the responses have been as the PLC's grown over the time, and yeah, you deserve a huge amount of credit, you and the rest of the team that are behind it. But I know that you've put a lot of energy and a lot of your own vision into the PLC. If you know, you said you're moving towards your, I think, second in-person event. So
yes.
Obviously you have online events as well. So if people wanted to maybe find out more or even join, is there a good way to keep up with what's going on?
So we can you could join us on the NGS PLC group that is there on LinkedIn. We have a math group as well, which is NGS PLC Math, more geared towards math topics. But we also have a common group, NGS PLC, on LinkedIn that you can join just to be able to keep up to date with what is happening within our group.
Hopefully people check that out on LinkedIn. Sana, we've covered so much ground already. There's just really a couple of other things that I think would be appropriate to ask you. And one of them, of course, is for emerging leaders, so people that are at that point that perhaps you were describing there, where you're getting quite comfortable with what you've been doing for a few years, and you're looking above and out at the system around you and thinking, maybe I could make some impact here. What advice would you give to someone considering taking on their first leadership role, or looking to just grow their impact beyond their current position?
So like I said, when you're looking at growing yourself, you might have to look for opportunities outside of what is actually presented to yourself. So even if you're looking at a leadership role, you might see that the opportunity isn't coming your way. So if the opportunity does not come your way, it is then up to you to take those steps to display those good leadership skills. This might end up with you either doing things that are out of your immediate scope of work, where you might have to do something voluntarily, or you might have to invest more into developing your own professional skills, whether it is attending workshops outside, whether it is running workshops, anything of that sort, which gives you an opportunity to try your leadership skills outside, and then bring it back to your school and say, or to your management and say, hey, this is something I have learned, this is something I have done, I want to try it out in school, or I want to see how this looks inside our school setting. So this kind of initiative on your part as well, so that your management can actually see that this is something that you are interested towards, or something that you are capable of, will help them also build that trust in you and have that confidence in your abilities as well. So where it is not possible, where it is not presenting, I think you need to create those situations for yourself. For that, I think you need to, for a very large extent, be very involved in the professional development and the teaching community within your reach, whether it is within, like for us in Dubai, you need to be involved in the conferences, in everything that is happening in Dubai, so that you have a better understanding of what is the growth prospect within the teaching environment in the UAE or in Dubai, and things that you can actually bring back to your school and say, hey, this is a practice I saw outside, which was going really well in such and such school. Why don't we try it out? So these kind of little bits and pieces of initiative will really help make you visible to your management. That is sometimes it as well, right? You need to make yourself visible to the management. Then where it does present to yourself, like if somebody does give you an opportunity and say, hey, do you want to try this out? Again, tell yourself what is the worst that can happen and say yes, and then go home, practice, prepare, study as much as you can to prepare for the role, so that you are able to do the best at it. Because very likely, if somebody is offering you something, you probably do already have the skills. You've not thought about it, or you haven't considered it, but somebody is seeing something in you, and you need to honor that. You need to take it on, you need to learn from it, and then you can hopefully help you grow and move into that leadership skills as you want. For us as middle leaders, as we are trying to move up, we are kind of in a good place where we are still in touch with teachers and we are working with management. So being able to see the best of both worlds helps us bridge those gaps. So even if we are middle leaders, for us to be able to see where management goes, and at the same time for middle leaders to see who actually has those leadership skills, that becomes very important. So having that relationship with your middle leaders, where they can see, because they are on the floor, they see what you do, they are in and out of your classes. Having that relationship with your middle leaders also makes a very big difference. So that, again, it comes down to visibility. There are you might be great at a lot of awesome things that you do inside your classroom, but sometimes it is about making yourself visible so that people on the outside are able to see the amazing work that you're doing.
It is a busy job, and I think everyone that's listened to this conversation will be thinking, my goodness, it sounds like Sana's got a lot of energy and she's involved in a lot of different things. Sort of final thing there on keeping the balance right, though, and sort of looking after yourself. How do you sort of cope with the never-ending to-do list and the fact that everything's due 5 minutes ago? What would your advice be, and what are your strategies for keeping the balance?
So I think, like I said, where you have to find yourself in a status quo, when you find that you are coming into a place of comfort, you don't want to try 5 different new things at one time. You don't want to take on the team lead position and your master's degree and something else at the same time. You have to find yourself in a place where you feel comfortable in something before you're able to take on something new. Because again, this comes down to cognitive load. When you're doing something long enough, everything is chunked together and it just happens a lot more automatically. So you can then take on a new task. So it's about understanding yourself, knowing what you are doing well, finding your balance over there, becoming very comfortable with what you're doing so that whatever new challenge comes your way, you can do your best at that as well. So I think that is where you have to find your balance. Be comfortable in what you're really doing and be very, know exactly what you're doing, and then move forward and take on one challenge at a time and then build up on it.
And all the time asking yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Sana, that brings us to the end of this conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights and your experiences with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really wonderful having this conversation with you. I hope it has been beneficial to those listening.
I have no doubt at all it has been. It's been terrific. Thank you very much, Sana.